A long time ago, I watched this movie titled Blade Runner 2049. I liked that movie very much, and it influenced me a lot. Like any other literally me enjoyer, it somewhat changed my personality and well, that's a topic for another time. I liked the movie so much that I decided to read about the director behind the work, a man named Denis Villeneuve. I later saw that this man had directed another strange sci-fi movie that caught my attention. It was titled Dune. I decided to watch that other movie, having no expectations at all and having no idea what it was even about. It ended up that I liked it a lot, but it also bothered me that the movie just suddenly ends, and then I discovered that the movie was based off a book. Regardless to say, I liked the Dune movie a lot. I thought it was a very intriguing story and universe, so I decided to save the books on my wishlist on Amazon so I could buy them later and read them eventually. At first, I didn't think much about those books nor didn't try to search on the internet about which books might have been adapted in the movie. I didn't even search whether it was a good adaptation or not. Some time had to pass and two things had to happen in parallel for me to finally get into those books. First, I watched this video by OutShiftX about the Dune sequels. It completely blew my mind. It had never crossed my mind that this whole 2-hour and 40-minute long movie only adapted the first half of the first book. That was just completely crazy. And then the video just shows the entire plot of the other books. And man, as the video goes, Dune only seems more and more bizarre. From watching it, this just seemed as such a bizarre franchise, and my interest in it only grew even more. This video let me further deep down, and I decided to watch the 1984 movie by David Lynch. At first I thought it was an even more accurate version of the story, in comparison to Denis' version. Only later I discovered that, well, it wasn't. By then, I knew that Villeneuve's Dune was going to have a second part. And because of Lynch's movie, I thought that those bizarre Whirling Way modules would appear on part 2. I believed that stupidity until I discovered that those were invented for the movie and weren't on the books at all. I will admit that the Whirling Way modules and screen battles were far too bizarre and didn't seem to actually fit in with Dune anyway, but well. The second thing that happened in parallel to all of that was that I, by accident, ended up discovering this bizarre stoner metal album titled Dopesmoker. I saw the artwork and immediately thought about Dune. What caught my attention the most was that Dopesmoker was an album with a single song, a 1-hour long song titled Dopesmoker, that instantly hooked me, and one day, when I was going back home from work, by foot, under the hot Brazilian heat, I downloaded the album on Spotify and listened to it. Upon listening to it for the first time, I was in love. Since the trajectory I took that day lasted around an hour, I listened to the entire thing before getting home. I have to say, it was such a memorable experience. That happened around the first half of October of that year. I listened to Dopesmoker so many times that it ended up being my top 1 most listened song of the year. That's crazy, especially considering that this is an hour-long song. The version I listened of the release also had a bonus 8-minute long song titled Hot Lava Man. It ended up that I listened to it a lot as well, but it wasn't my number 1 song of the year. Dopesmoker was. I listened to the song so many times that back then, I had memorized all the significant parts and timestamps from Dopesmoker. Whenever I told a friend about that album, I always listed the best parts from it, just so my poor friend could save up some time and not listen to the whole thing, in case he wanted to give it a try. Nowadays, well, I forgot most of those important timestamps I had memorized. So be it, whatever. Talking about the narrative this work presents, basically, Dopesmoker is an album about a caravan of weed priests from Israel, crossing the desert to spread their weed religion. We can see from this artwork, made by Eric Roper, how this universe is very sci-fi oriented. The Weedians, how the weed priests are called, are wearing these steel suit-like clothing, probably to protect themselves from the elements of the desert and from possible attacks by hostiles. Not only that, but these garments must also store water for them, such as the steel suits from Dune do. From these tubes that connect on their masks, they breathe an air impregnated with the smoke of their sacred leaf. We see that there is this strange sci-fi ship in orbit. It also somewhat looks steampunkish as well. The irony. Steam and smoke. Maybe it is also fueled by the sacred leaf. There are these two moons up on the sky. Probably this isn't even planet Earth. And, you know, Arrakis does have two moons. So maybe this is Arrakis after all? From what I learned from my research, when Sleep made this album, they were mostly inspired by the Bible. Well, at least an interpretation of the Bible through the lens of being stoned with the green. They would smoke the green and read the Bible in between recording sessions and writing the lyrics for the album. So, in the end, or at least when they first recorded the album, they weren't inspired by Dune. And only during the later years, with the newer releases and with this artwork by Eric Roper, they, with time, got interested and were influenced by Dune. I won't get into the details about the multiple releases this work had, but I will say that the band didn't release the album officially for around a decade. Instead, they relied on bootlegs and unofficial releases before Dopesmoker was finally released by Third Man Records, their first official release. On this release, with this artwork by Eric, that's when the band was finally inspired by Dune. On later interviews, both the artist Eric Roper and the members of the band, that is, All Cisneros, Jason Roeder, and Matt Pike, admitted that they were inspired by Dune down the line. On their next album, titled The Sciences, another great work by the way, there are even some lyrics and a whole song that were inspired by Dune. And that is something that I find really interesting. I'd recommend you check that album out as well. It is another really good work. Listening to Dopesmoker was such an impactful experience. After I got into this album and into this band, that's when I decided it was time for me to read the Dune books. Well, when I read those books, the least I can say is that they too changed my life in drastic, unexpected ways. I wouldn't be the same person I am today were it not thanks to Dune. You can check out on my channel the complete story of the Dune series, going in deep into each one of the books and explaining all the major plot details from each one. That was a tough series to make, so check those videos out if you're interested. Maybe you can learn a lot about the Dune series as well, who knows. Basically, Dopesmoker is one of the best albums that I've ever listened. Not only that, but the Dune series is literally my favorite book franchise of all time. So I must thank the album for getting me interested in the books. And I must thank Denis Villeneuve for getting me interested in Dune. And I must thank the original Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 for getting me interested in Denis Villeneuve. And I must thank the song The Whore, the Cook, and the Mother from the album 34.788% Complete by the band My Dying Bride for getting me interested in Blade Runner in the first place. Well, that spiraled down fast, but so be it. Subscribe to the channel if you like this crap. Until next time.